Most people live under a silent illusion that others have the power to stop them, break them, or control their destiny. Machiavelli would have seen this belief not as truth, but as psychological surrender. The greatest prison is not built by enemies, it is built by perception. From a psychological standpoint, power is often misunderstood as force. People believe they are constrained by authority, circumstance, or the will of others. Yet history repeatedly shows that domination succeeds only when the mind accepts it. The moment you internalize limitation, resistance collapses without a fight. Machiavelli understood that true control begins internally. A ruler who dominates territory but cannot govern fear, impulse, or perception is already weak. Likewise, an individual who believes they can be broken has already handed power away. The external world merely confirms what the inner world has accepted. Modern psychology supports this. Learned helplessness occurs when individuals repeatedly perceive themselves as powerless, even when opportunities for action exist. Over time, they stop trying not because they are incapable, but because they believe resistance is futile. This belief, once formed, becomes self-reinforcing. Machiavelli would argue that the first act of rebellion is not external, it is mental refusal. Refusal to accept imposed narratives. Refusal to internalize fear as destiny. Refusal to confuse pressure with defeat. The dark truth is this: most systems of control rely less on force and more on compliance. People are managed through expectation, shame, reward, and fear. When these tools fail, control becomes expensive and unstable. That is why psychological domination is always preferred to physical constraint. To say nobody can hold you does not mean obstacles vanish. It means obstacles do not decide who you become. Constraint exists, but interpretation determines impact. Two individuals face the same pressure, one bends, the other hardens. Machiavelli's realism teaches that strength is not optimism, it is clarity. You are not invincible, but you are far less fragile than you've been trained to believe. Before anyone can break you, you must agree that breaking is possible, and that agreement is optional. Machiavelli understood a truth that many find uncomfortable. Fear is more efficient than force. Force requires constant energy. Fear, once internalized, sustains itself. This is why most systems of control rely not on chains, but on belief. Psychologically, fear narrows perception. When people are afraid of failure, rejection, punishment, or loss of their thinking contracts. They stop exploring options. They default to obedience. Not because they are weak, but because fear convinces them that resistance is dangerous. Machiavelli observed that rulers who relied purely on violence faced rebellion. But those who shaped perception, who made people expect consequences, ruled with far less effort. The threat did not need to be constant. The belief in the threat was enough. In modern life, fear rarely appears as physical danger. It appears as social risk. Fear of being judged, excluded, misunderstood, or labeled a failure. These fears are subtle, but powerful. They govern career choices, relationships, and even self-expression. Dark psychology operates here. When fear becomes internal, control becomes invisible. You begin to police yourself. You hesitate before speaking. You abandon ideas before testing them. You shrink not because someone ordered you to, but because fear suggested you should. Machiavelli would say this is the most stable form of domination. No guards required, no enforcement necessary. The mind enforces limits automatically. But here is the reversal. Fear only works when it is believed. The moment fear is examined, it weakens. When you ask, what actually happens if I act? Instead of, what might go wrong? Clarity returns. Psychology shows that fear exaggerates consequence and minimizes resilience. People imagine collapse where adjustment would occur. They imagine rejection where indifference would follow. Fear lies by magnifying cost and hiding capacity. Machiavelli's insight was not to eliminate fear, but to see through it. He knew courage was not absence of fear, but refusal to let fear define possibility. Once fear loses authority, control collapses. And when control collapses, movement becomes possible again. One of the most effective ways people are controlled is through identity. Machiavelli understood that once a person accepts a fixed identity, their behavior becomes predictable, and predictability is easy to manage. Psychologically, identity acts like a boundary. When you believe, "This is who I am," you unconsciously decide, "This is what I can and cannot do." Labels become cages. Not because they are enforced, but because they are internalized. Society reinforces this early. You are given names: student, employee, failure, talented, shy, difficult, gifted, ordinary. Some labels sound positive, but they still limit. Once you accept them, you begin living in alignment with the label rather than with potential. Machiavelli would see this as a subtle form of domination. A person who believes they are not that type of person will never challenge a boundary, even when the boundary is imaginary. Control no longer requires pressure. The identity does the work. Modern psychology confirms this through self-schema theory. People behave consistently with their self-image, even when it harms them. Change becomes threatening because it feels like self-betrayal. Growth is resisted not by fear of failure, but by fear of no longer recognizing oneself. This is why identity is so powerful in controlling populations. Tell people who they are, what is appropriate for them, what success or failure looks like, and most will comply automatically. No force needed. Machiavelli's insight was ruthless but clear. Those who control identity control behavior. But the reverse is also true. The moment you loosen identification, freedom expands. You are not your past. You are not your reputation. You are not the role others assigned you. These are descriptions, not laws. When identity becomes flexible, action becomes possible. You can act strategically rather than personally. You can adapt without shame. You can evolve without apology. The individual who refuses to be fully defined becomes difficult to stop, not because they are aggressive, but because they are no longer confined. And nothing frightens systems of control more than a person who does not fit neatly into expectation. Pressure does not break everyone. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Pressure only destroys those who are internally divided, those who doubt themselves, resent their path, or depend on external approval for stability. Psychologically, pressure exposes fault lines. When a person's values, identity, and direction are misaligned, stress amplifies the conflict. They fracture not because pressure is unbearable, but because there is no internal unity holding them together. Machiavelli observed that rulers collapsed under pressure not from attack, but from indecision. They wanted to please and dominate at the same time. They wanted security without sacrifice. That contradiction weakened them more than enemies ever could. The same applies individually. If you rely on validation, pressure threatens identity. If you fear rejection, pressure feels personal. If your sense of worth is unstable, pressure becomes overwhelming. Division turns difficulty into crisis. Modern psychology confirms this through cognitive dissonance. When beliefs, actions, and desires conflict, stress skyrockets. The mind expends energy, suppressing contradiction rather than solving problems. Exhaustion follows. Collapse appears inevitable. But when a person is internally aligned, clear on values, goals, and limits, pressure becomes sharpening rather than crushing. Stress organizes attention. Resistance strengthens resolve. The same force that breaks one person forges another. Machiavelli respected individuals who could endure tension without emotional leakage. Their strength came not from comfort, but from coherence. They knew what they stood for and what they were willing to lose. This clarity made them difficult to manipulate. Division is often created deliberately. Conflicting expectations, mixed messages, and impossible standards keep people unstable. When you are torn between who you are and who you're told to be, control is easy. The solution is not rebellion for its own sake, it is integration. Decide what matters, accept the cost, release the need to satisfy incompatible demands. A unified person cannot be easily broken. pressure has nowhere to enter. When inner conflict ends, resilience begins. Machiavelli understood that resistance does not begin with confrontation, it begins with self-command. A person who cannot govern their impulses, emotions, and reactions is already governed by something else. Before anyone can resist external pressure, they must first rule themselves. Psychologically, self-command is the ability to pause between stimulus and response. Most people live reactively. They respond immediately to fear, insult, opportunity, or desire. This immediacy creates predictability. Predictability creates control. Machiavelli saw this clearly. Those who react impulsively can be provoked, rushed, or manipulated. Those who delay response retain leverage. Silence frustrates control. Calm disrupts pressure. Time becomes a weapon. Modern psychology supports this through emotional regulation theory. Individuals who can regulate emotion under stress maintain cognitive flexibility. They see options others miss. They act deliberately rather than defensively. This is not passive, it is strategic. Self-command also dissolves intimidation. Threats work only when they trigger panic or urgency. When the inner state remains stable, threats lose force. What once felt overwhelming becomes merely information. Machiavelli did not admire brute resistance. He admired disciplined resistance, the ability to endure discomfort without emotional collapse. This endurance makes coercion expensive. Control thrives on quick compliance. Delayed compliance weakens it. There is a darker truth here. Most people are controlled not by others, but by their own impulses. Fear of discomfort, hunger for approval, avoidance of pain. Once these impulses are mastered, external pressure loses its primary leverage. Self-command also restores dignity. You no longer feel pushed, rushed, or cornered. You move when you choose. Even refusal becomes calm rather than defiant. This composure unsettles those who expect emotional reaction. Philosophically, self-command is sovereignty. It is the decision to be ruled by principle rather than impulse. This decision does not make life easier, but it makes it yours. Machiavelli believed that the strongest position is not domination, but independence of reaction. When others cannot control how you feel, they cannot control what you do. Resistance, then, is not loud. It is quiet, patient, and internally grounded. And it begins the moment you choose to command yourself. Machiavelli understood a difficult truth. No one can truly break you unless you allow it internally. External pressure can wound, delay, or exhaust, but breaking requires consent. It requires the mind to surrender its narrative of agency. Psychologically, breaking occurs when meaning collapses. Pain alone does not destroy people. Loss alone does not end them. What breaks a person is the belief that pain is final, loss is permanent, and effort is pointless. Once this belief takes hold, they will disengage. Machiavelli saw this in fallen rulers. They did not fall because they were defeated, but because they accepted defeat internally before the outcome was decided. They stopped adapting. They stopped maneuvering. They accepted humiliation as identity. Modern psychology calls this cognitive surrender. When individuals interpret adversity as proof of inadequacy or fate, resilience collapses. Stress becomes trauma. Challenge becomes threat. The body follows the mind's decision to give up. But consider the opposite. When meaning remains intact, suffering transforms. Hardship becomes information. Failure becomes instruction. Pain becomes temporary. The individual remains psychologically upright, even when externally constrained. This is why two people can endure the same circumstances with radically different outcomes. One breaks, one hardens. The difference is not strength, it is interpretation. Machiavelli believed that fortune is chaotic and often cruel, but never absolute. There is always room to maneuver for those who remain mentally engaged. As long as you can think, observe, and adapt, you are not broken. Breaking requires resignation. It requires the belief that nothing you do matters. That belief is optional, even when circumstances are harsh. This does not romanticize suffering. Machiavelli was not sentimental. He simply understood that as long as the inner position remains flexible, recovery is possible. Collapse occurs when flexibility is lost. To refuse breaking is not to deny pain, it is to deny finality. It is to say, this moment does not define the whole. As long as that stance remains, no force can fully destroy you. To be unstoppable does not mean to be invincible. Machiavelli never believed in invulnerability. He believed in psychological sovereignty, the state in which no external force fully governs your inner position. Psychological sovereignty begins when you stop outsourcing authority over your mind, when praise no longer defines you, when fear no longer decides for you, when pressure no longer dictates your pace. At this point, obstacles still exist, but they lose their power to determine who you become. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous individual is not the strongest, but the one who remains internally free under constraint. Such a person adapts instead of collapsing. They observe instead of panic. They wait instead of react. Control systems depend on urgency. Sovereignty dissolves it. Modern psychology aligns with this. Individuals with a strong internal locus of control, those who believe their actions matter, recover faster, endure longer, and think more creatively under stress. They do not deny reality. They negotiate with it. Becoming unstoppable is not about domination over others. It is about non-submission of the self. You may comply strategically. You may retreat temporarily. You may endure loss. But internally, you remain intact. That integrity is power. Machiavelli's darker insight was that most people stop themselves long before they are stopped. They anticipate defeat. They internalize limitations. They surrender psychologically before confrontation even begins. The sovereign individual refuses this premature surrender. They accept uncertainty without paralysis. They accept pain without identity collapse. They accept delay without despair. This is the final lesson. You are not free because nothing restrains you. You are free because restraint does not own you. No one can hold you unless you accept the cage. No one can break you unless you agree to collapse. No one can stop you unless you stop yourself internally. Power begins where submission ends, and submission is always a choice of the mind. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.